This past week, I have posed a question to several people, and the question is, how can you have a great faith? How can you have a great faith? What must you do, or what must happen in your life in order for you to really truly have a great faith? And there's been a lot of different responses and different things. And I know sometimes we first look to read Bible more, or I need to stop doing this, or I need to come to church more. And there's a lot of those kind of things that we kind of think out, and those are all, there's some good things, but really as we begin to look at it, is there are a couple of very specific things that really shape whether we have a great faith or not. And so we began to look at some of the different people in the Bible, and I asked the question of think about someone in the Bible, and I want you to just take a minute and think about who they are, that someone that you believe has a great faith. And there was a lot of people mentioned. There was Paul and Peter and Daniel and Noah and Moses, and as you start David, and there's just a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. But I wanted to touch real quickly just on a few of those people. And I think as we begin to look at the characters of the Bible, the people who lived out a great faith in the Bible, we can begin to answer this question. But I want to kind of look at Hebrews chapter 11, where it talks about some of the things that happened by faith through their lives. For instance, starting in chapter 11, verse 4 of Hebrews, it says, "By faith Abel offered God a better sacrifice than Cain, through which he obtained the testimony that he was righteous. By faith Enoch was taken up so he would not see death." And then verse 7, "By faith Noah, being warned by God about things not yet seen, prepared an ark for salvation of his household." Now, we mentioned to some people the idea of Noah and said, well, he had a great faith. And I said, a lot of people don't realize it took him 120 years to build this ark. And if you think about it, I know sometimes we struggle personally being rejected or being pushed aside, or someone not acknowledging us, or someone thinking bad of us because we live out our faith just a little bit, or that we tell someone about what we believe about God just a little bit. And Noah had 120 years to build an ark without rain, without even proof there would be this flood, and with people continually rejecting him. But it's 120 years of faith. And to me, that blows me away when I think about it. Verse 8, "By faith Abraham, when he was called, obeyed by going out to a place which he was to receive for inheritance. He went out not knowing where he was going. By faith he followed where God was leading him. He lived as an alien in the land of promise, in a foreign land." We kind of look at it, by faith Sarah herself received the ability to conceive. And then we kind of keep going on here. By faith, verse 17, "By faith Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, and he who had received the promises was offering up his only son." And you think about it, on and on and on. We keep going. We can continue to look. By faith, verse 23, "By faith Moses, when he was born, was hidden for 3 months. By faith Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, even though, choosing to endure ill treatment with the people of God rather than enjoy the passing pleasures of sin." And so we begin to look about all the different things that happened, and we see what throughout the life, and how Moses' life continued to go through. And there are several things that I think were key characteristics of people who we call men and women of great faith. And the key characters that we see, first and foremost, is they trust God. They trust God with their future and with their life, that what he is putting before them is what he desires for them. Not necessarily that it is better in a sense of how we define better, not necessarily that it is going to be happier or more comfortable, but literally that it is what God has for them. And that in those moments, their ability to trust God and say, by me trusting God and living this out, that God would be seen, and that people may know him more, that is more important than following my own pleasures, my own ways, my own desires, my own things. And so when I look at it, I think in order for us to have a great faith, we truly need to recognize that I must trust God with my future. I must trust God with my present. I must trust God with right now, who I am, in my circumstances of my life. And basically, the biggest hindrance to us having a great faith is the root of all sin, which is pride and selfishness. It's that I want more than what I want, more than what God has for me. It's that I want to be comfortable. I want to be happy. I want to have the things in life that make that I want, regardless of the consequences of how it affects anyone else. And I know we all don't necessarily walk around saying that, but in a sense, by us choosing to go the path, the easier path, the comfortable path, the path that we want, if it's in contradiction to God's path, we're basically saying, God, I don't really have a faith and trust in what you have planned for me. Now, as we look at all that, there's a second layer that produces a great faith in our lives. And that I'm going to read to you from Paul. When I look at Paul, Paul is one person in the New Testament who we look at and say, wow, Paul has an amazing, great faith. But I want to read to you what Paul's life was like. Because here's the thing. In order for us to have a great faith, we have to trust God. In order for us to trust God, we got to begin to look at the hard things in life and walk through those. You see, there is no growth in our walk with God without struggle. There is no understanding of deeper life in Christ without struggle, without hardships, without hurt, without pain. There is none of that. So for us to truly have a great faith, we must endure hardship. Now let me read to you what Paul went through. He says, he said, basically, he said, I speak as if I'm insane, I more so, in far more labors, he said, and far more imprisonments. I've been beaten times without number, often in danger of death. He said, 5 times I received from the Jews 39 lashes, which is one short of what the law would allow. 5 times brought to the brink of death because of that. 3 times he was beaten with rods. Once he was stoned, throwing stones at him. 3 times he was shipwrecked. I don't want to be shipwrecked even once. That concept just is mind-blowing to me. A night and a day I've spent in the deep, in the sea, in the ocean. Not on a boat, but just in the ocean for a day and a night. He said, I've been on frequent journeys, in danger in rivers, danger from robbers, dangers from my countrymen, dangers from the Gentiles, dangers in the city, dangers in the wilderness, dangers on the sea, dangers among false brethren. I've been in labor and hardship through many sleepless nights. I've been hungry. I've been thirsty. I've been without food. I've been cold and been exposed to the cold weather. He said, apart from such of these things, I also have this deep concern for the churches that I have this responsibility for. And so you think about the life that Paul lived. And so if we ask ourselves this question, do you want to have a faith like Paul had? If you do, are you willing to go through the things that Paul went through in order to have that faith, to have that trust? You see, it's the small moments in our life when we choose to say, I don't want to go through that, God. I don't want to deal with that right now. It's too hard. Just fix my problem. We literally our prayers begin to be ones of God, fix my problem, make my circumstances better, rather than God, in this hard circumstance, in this tough moment, in this pain that I'm working through, God, create in me a great faith in you, a trust in you that in this process, even if I go through pain, even if I go through hurt, even if I go through hardship, by me following you and responding to you, the opportunity for people to know you is greater than me being out of pain or out of this circumstance. So what this doesn't necessarily mean is that you just ignore your circumstances and you say, oh, well, I'll just do whatever. But we do look at our circumstances and we say, you know what? In this moment, right now, this is where I'm at. I might not want to stay here in this circumstance if I can help it if someone's if in a bad place. But at the same time, while I'm here, I'm going to grow and respond out of Christ. And let's see what God does in me and through me in helping others know Him. So my prayer is this, is that if we truly want a great faith in God, we've got to trust Him. We've got to recognize that the thing holding us back is our own selfishness and pride. And we got to understand that in order to really have a great faith, we've got to trust God in the hard moments and the hard times of our life. I hope that this has been encouraging to you in the sense that, you know what, also with every single other, with all of the people in the Bible, with the exception of Jesus, they've all blown it. They've all blown it, which means you and I can still have a great faith even when we've blown it. It's in this moment, right here, right now, turning to God and pursuing Him, seeing Him and recognizing that I'm willing to work through the hard moments of my life to become more like Him.